They fought and some died for their homeland. They fought and some died, now it's our land.
I'm here at the Moss Park Armoury here in Toronto, Ontario, where the Jake Gaudaur Veterans Trophy Award is going to be handed out to a CFL player who best demonstrates the characteristics of Canada's veterans, both in war, peacetime, and military conflict. This award itself, given a brief history about it, the late Jake Gaudaur, who was named after, was a World War II pilot. He played for the Toronto Argonauts, the Hamilton Ticat, and the Montreal Alouette. He was also commissioner of the CFL from 1968 to 1984, the longest-serving commissioner of the CFL. Altogether, in different positions, he was with the Canadian Football League for 45 years. So what the CFL has done is they've gotten together with the Veterans Affairs, and they're not only celebrating the contributions that the late Jake Gaudaur has done, but at the same time they're helping to recognize the sacrifices that the veterans in Canada have given to the nation of Canada. We'll be right back in a few minutes with the winner of the Jake Gaudaur Award and other people.
Look at his little child, there's no fear in her eyes. Could he not show respect for other dads who have died? Take 2 minutes, would you mind?
I'm here with the Derek Sullivan from the Veterans Affairs. Derek, first question I have to ask you, how important is the Jake Gaudaur Veterans Trophy, not only to the CFL, but let's say to Veterans Affairs itself?
Well, it's important to us, quite important to us, actually. It's for a number of reasons. What we're doing with the CFL, as well as with other sports organizations, is we're really trying to bring remembrance to Canadians rather than trying to pull Canadians to remembrance. So we want to make remembrance part of the everyday lives of Canadians. And the partnership with the CFL really helps us do that, where we host with the CFL veterans tributes before the Eastern and Western Conference semifinal games, and then each year we award this trophy to a Canadian CFL player who really exemplifies what a veteran is, the characteristics of a veteran: strength, perseverance, commitment to community, comradeship, courage, and it's an opportunity for us to bring sport and paying tribute to veterans together.
And what was the one thing that actually inspired people within the Veterans Affairs office to get involved with the CFL?
Well, we were reaching out to sports organizations. We have veterans tributes before hockey games for in all of the Canadian major junior hockey leagues, midget AAA, university hockey, as well. Now we're getting involved with university football as well, and it's really a part of being involved with what Canadians do every day. So the CFL was a natural choice for us because there is such an intertwined history. During the Second World War, it was service teams, military teams, that competed for the Grey Cup each of those years during the Second World War. So we thought, wow, our history is so closely intertwined that it would be great to do a partnership with the CFL. And they felt exactly the same way.
Yeah, I think Jake Gaudaur was on the 1942 Grey Cup that won, and actually he was a member of the Royal Canadian Air Force.
That's right. He was on the RCAF Hurricanes that won the Grey Cup in 42. And then, of course, he went on after leaving the military to return to the CFL as a player, and then team executive, and then ultimately the longest-serving commissioner of the league.
And you know, what is one person that's actually inspired you in your life to want to not only get involved with Veterans Affairs, but continuing giving back to Canada itself?
Oh, I've been so fortunate. I've met so many veterans over my many years with Veterans Affairs, and many of them have inspired me every single day of my working life. If there were one who stands out in my own personal life, it's a fellow named George MacDonnell, who served in 1941, December 41, in the defense of Hong Kong, and then along with well over 1,000 of his comrades became a prisoner of war of the Japanese for the balance of the Second World War. And it was George's leadership during his service and while he was in captivity that were inspiring, but most inspiring to me personally was the man that he became and the life he chose to live after the horrific experiences of being a prisoner of war in the Far East. And he is, for me personally, the most inspiring person that I've met and had the great pleasure to call a friend in my lifetime. And George lives actually here in Toronto.
And what kind of message do you want to leave with everyone as we get close and to wrap this up?
Well, I guess the one message would be that we should be honoring and paying tribute to veterans all year, every year, not just on November 11th or on anniversaries like Vimy Day or D-Day, but that we should be thanking a veteran every single day and every time we have the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pittance of time for the boys and the girls who went over. In peace may they rest. May we never forget why they died. It's a pittance of time.
I'm here at Moss Park with the Commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Mark Cohon. Mark, first question I have to ask you, can you talk briefly about the importance of the Jake Gaudaur Veterans Trophy?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, basically there were two things we wanted to do. There's that historical bond between the military, our veterans, and the CFL. And there's great attributes of veterans that are representative in our players, like strength and perseverance and courage and commitment to the community. And that's exactly what this award is. It's about that. And this is the third year of the award. Graeme Bell received it this year from the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and he follows Andre Dury of the Toronto Argonauts and Mike McCullough, a former teammate of his, with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So it's a great award, and it really does marry that special bond between our players and veterans.
You also went over to Afghanistan in a tour, and you met some of the troops over there. Can you talk briefly about that?
It was an amazing experience. I went to Kandahar for a few days, brought the Grey Cup over there last year, right around this time, just before the Grey Cup, and it was phenomenal to see the troops over there. When I brought the cup out and they got to see it and touch it and tell their stories, it really was as if they were talking about home, and I think they missed home, and the cup represents Canada to them. The cup represents that story, and just to see the commitment that those troops, the conditions they live under, the challenges. I was there, we had a brief rocket attack, and that was only one example of the stress that they live under and what they do to defend our freedoms.
And one thing I always like to ask people when I interview them, what is the one person that inspired you, and what kind of message do you feel that you carry on as you're not only commissioner of the CFL but throughout your life?
I think it's probably my father. And my dad, he's very, very philanthropic, does unbelievable things in the community. But I also think he talks about having fun and having fun in your life. And I'm in a position right now that I love what I do. I'm allowed to have a job that has a profound impact on the country and have a fun time at the same time.
And where do you see the CFL actually going as the years go on? Expansion-wise, can we see it next in Victoria, maybe the East Coast and that too?
We're going back to the nation's capital in 2014, which is a great opportunity for us. But I think we're going to continue to grow. We have stadiums being built across the country in Winnipeg and Hamilton and in Ottawa, Saskatchewan, hopefully in 2017. We have a new television deal coming. We have more and more kids playing the game. This weekend is a great opportunity to ignite the passion of people in Toronto, and I think the future's bright.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're kind of pressed, so thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much.
Read the letters and poems of the heroes at home. They have casualties, battles, and fears of their own. There's a price to be paid if you go, if you stay. Freedom's fought for and won in numerous ways.
I'm here with this year's winner of the Jake Gaudaur Veterans Trophy Award from the Canadian Football League, Graeme Bell. Graeme, the first question I have to ask you, taken back to 2007 when you suffered your injury, can you talk about that night, what actually happened?
Yeah, and, it was we'd coached football all week, and we'd gone out to celebrate as, most coaches do after, a long week, and we were coming home about 12:31, and I'd left the pub, and I'd walked out, and there was a circus going on over off the one street, and as I was getting into a cab, three guys came hopping down the street, and with baseball bats, and a girl had started yelling at them. Obviously, her boyfriend had been hit by them. They had hit 4 other people that night, and so I obviously. Just being there, growing up in sport, and I guess with my parents upbringing, I just thought that was completely wrong. So I approached them. Obviously, I had some words to say with them, and next thing I know, I got a hit across the face with a baseball bat, and then one over the top of my head. I remember stumbling across the street, bleeding. I remember climbing into an ambulance. I remember in the hospital, I remember looking down the hallway and seeing my little brother, and then I remember waking up in the operating room and trying to get off the table. And then a day or so later, I woke up and, and I tried to speak, and I just couldn't speak anymore. And so I just mumbled words, what was trying to be words. And then after that, it was a long recovery, and but right from the get-go, my first question was, when can I play football?
Yeah, and what were some of the struggles you went through during your rehab?
Yeah, the struggles obviously was the fact that football had been taken away from me, and the doctors said I would never play football again. That was the biggest one. But in order to move forward, you gotta accept what happened. You have to accept the things that happen in your life and move forward. And so that's what I did. It was I had friends flying in and driving in to see me. I had family that was very supportive. I had and with that, and the community, I was getting emails, and a Facebook page was started from me, and I was getting letters sent from people all over Canada. So those 3 elements really helped me through my recovery. But growing up through sports, you learn to deal with adversity and move forward, and so that was it. There were struggles daily, there were struggles weekly, there were struggles all the time. But those 3 elements really pushed me and encouraged me to do what I wanted. So as much as the doctor said football's out of the question, you'd be an imbecile if you wanted to play it. But I didn't let that alter what I wanted. I just set a goal and I worked towards it, and that's what you get with sports.
And getting back to the first day that you stepped foot on the CFL football field after returning from your injury, what was going through your mind, and how did you feel?
I went down the field and made a tackle. It was the best day of my life, or one of them. So it was a big day for me. And the doctors had said it's going to be a trial and error. They didn't know if I was going to get more concussions or if I'm going to. So it was a trial and error. But at the back of my head, I wanted to get down there and do something to show people that I was back. And it was almost a year to the day that I walked back on the football field and made the first play. So it was a good feeling, and it was a good feeling, and something I sometimes look back to and I think about. So.
And you're involved with nonprofit foundations in Saskatchewan. What kind of organizations are you working with, not only in Regina but other parts of Saskatchewan?
I mean, the biggest one I work with is Saskatchewan Brain Injury, and I work with Saskatchewan Minor Football. I work with a lot of, I shouldn't even say, I go around to a lot of reserves around Saskatchewan, Alberta, northern communities, and I talk about drugs and alcohol and struggles I faced going through life. I've never had, but just acceptance was something I always thought I struggled with. I tell these kids that it's really, you don't need to drink to be accepted, right? You don't need that stuff to, although people do it on the weekends, and that's things that, some reserves have struggled with, and that's why I go on there and I talk about them. The other thing I talk about is bullying. I talk about goals. I talk about the similarities between school and sport. So those are about the top three that I've done in the past few years that I'm really passionate about, and and that's what pushes me daily.
And how do you feel now emotionally compared to prior to the attack of that night in 2007?
Yeah, a lot of people, when it comes to a brain injury, they say your personality changes. I'm sure mine has. My parents say I'm not the person I used to be. I still have the same qualities, but there's things. You're anxious at times, and the one thing is, you get emotional more. I found that I'm more emotional. I'm more emotional with lots of things. I can watch a movie, a comedy, and sometimes you can feel like you're tearing up. I think the biggest one is short memory, short-term memory. It's not like it used to be. My parents say I don't talk as fluently as I used to. And I know that there's days that I question if my brain suffered more than I thought, but you can't let it hold you up, and I'm not going to let those things affect me. Everything that's happened, I just accept and move forward, and it's not going to affect anything I do in my life.
And who's the one person that inspired you to, carry on that extra foot, push that extra inch each and every day?
Yeah, you got to go back to your parents. They saw it differently. They looked at me. I had 52 staples in my head after brain surgery. They looked at me and they just wanted me to have a life where I could live on my own. I looked at it like I was going to go back and play football. So it was completely different. But they're outside the box. I'm trying to break the box. And so they pushed me because not that they doubted me, but the fact that they just wanted me to live life again. I just knew I was going to live life again, and I was going to play football again. So,
and what kind of message do you want to leave with the youth that actually are, struggling in their own lives, whether it be addiction or trying to reach for their dream, and someone out there is trying to either put a label on them or has told them that they can't do something?
Don't let your mind hold you up. When people tell you that, don't believe it. Your mind is your biggest tool. It's the most powerful thing you have. And so, if you can convince yourself that you can do it, you're going to do it. And so, I think that was one thing that if you can control your mind and control your thoughts and your emotions, you can do a lot of things in your life.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls all over. May we never forget our young become vets at the end of the line. It's a pittance of time.